We just, the three of us just sit here and chat like the camera's not even there. Forget the camera's there. And we'll be talking about memories of when you first got married. And Lloyd, I know we have him on audio tape. I didn't have videotape at that time. But he was telling some of the things about his growing up on the farm and so forth. So we kind of want your growing up years. What it was like, where you were when you grew up. Was that in Murtaugh?
Well, I was born in Wyoming. I was 4 years old when we moved to Murtaugh.
And that was like Lyman, Wyoming?
Uh-huh.
I drove through Lyman, Wyoming. You can't hardly even see a town. It's so little.
It's really grown.
Is it?
The freeway bypasses the main part of the town.
Yeah,
So,
the freeway don't go through there at all.
It's at Fort Bridger, and that's fairly close to Lyman.
Yeah.
And we're going to have him sing, too.
Okay, so you were born in Lyman?
Yeah.
Do you remember anything about Lyman?
Oh yeah, I remember quite a little about it. I remember we used to go to church in a horse and buggy and take our lunch and eat, because sacrament meeting it isn't like it is now. It was afterwards. You had Sunday school
In the morning. And
in the mornings, and then the sacrament meeting was later, and we'd take our lunch and eat, and I can remember that. And then go home. We lived several miles away from the church. I'm not just sure how many miles.
how old were you when you left Lyman?
Only 4.
But you can remember?
Oh yeah.
What was
I
your
can remember
earliest,
that church.
earliest memory? It had to do with the church, I guess.
Well, one thing I can remember, we were sitting in the living room. Well, of course, it was just a little 3-room house, and the piano Mother and Dad had was in the bedroom. And we were sitting there around the stove one night, and the piano started playing. Just run up and down and run up and down. It just about scared us all to death. And they couldn't figure out why that piano was. So Dad went and finally opened the door, and a cat jumped down off from the piano. And I guess he got scared, and he just was running up and down those keys. And I can remember that.
And you were earlier than 4, obviously.
Yeah. And then I do another thing I remember. We went to, Dad worked on the railroad up in Carter, Wyoming, and so we went up and lived in a boxcar for I don't know how long. I can't remember that, but I remember how good the engineers were to Ellen and I. They never come through there without bringing us a sack of candy or something. And we lived in that boxcar because my dad ran freight from the railroad into Lyman for a little while.
Yeah.
How'd you move to Murtaugh?
Well, you moved to Murtaugh on the train. And my Uncle Will Goodman picked us up in a car and took us to his home, and I can remember him doing that.
Where'd you get off the train? Over
In Murtaugh.
There was a train in Murtaugh?
Oh, you bet. There was a direct line from Pocatello on,
Must have been a bigger town than it is now.
well, about the same.
What did you do?
It was a little bigger because it had a hotel, and they had a drugstore, 2 drugstores, 2 grocery stores.
What was the reason it was bigger then? A train coming through, I guess.
Well, that was the main line that went through there from Pocatello.
So where'd you first live in Murtaugh?
We lived in,
Did you live out at the lake?
no, we lived in what they call True's home. Do you remember that big 2-story home
Out on the highway?
on the highway? We lived in that for a while, and then we moved out on the farm that Dad had bought or homesteaded or
Now,
something.
was the lake there when you moved out? Or
We
did
didn't live there on the lake. It was back up on the road. It was
The
a
lake
little,
was already there.
the lake was already
Murtaugh
there.
Lake was built as part of the Milner project.
Oh, which probably brought the people in because it was irrigation water, right?
That's right, yeah, we lived in a little, well, it was a little 3-room house. We had 1 bedroom, living room, and kitchen. But that's one thing about my mother. She was such a good homemaker and made curtains and rugs. And everywhere we lived, it looked like a nice home. And she always used to paint calcimine.
What's
My
council?
guess is that's why you're such a good homemaker and why Donna's such a good homemaker.
She always
It's
had,
in the family.
always was never ashamed to bring any friends home, even the time we were little kids, because it was always neat and good stuff cooking on the stove.
Yeah. Just like walking in here tonight.
Okay, so how did the farm that I knew was Grandpa Moise's farm, which is now, of course, Ivan and David's farm, did Grandpa buy that farm to start with? From
Not to
somebody else?
start with, it was on the road that goes out to Artesian.
Yeah,
There's where we lived, in a little, well, it was almost a shack. And we didn't have electricity for a long time, but we finally got electricity, and I remember us kids sitting there and turning the light off and on. It was so much fun just to see that light turn off. We finally got electricity.
and then Grandpa bought that 80 acres there.
Then Grandpa bought that, and Marva was, I'm 10 years older than Marva, so I was taking care of her when they were moving down into that house. Her and I used to walk across the field.
So you were 12 or so, probably?
Yeah, well, I was 8 years old when my little brother died, and I always blame myself for his death, and still do this day,
Why is that? Tell us about it.
because I got the measles first, and brought him
He
home,
died of the measles.
and he got pneumonia. And I always thought it was my fault.
You
Mother
didn't
used-
have any way of knowing the measles were around, you just got
Mother
it.
used to say I never, anything that went down, was, come in, I'd run down the road till I caught it. And bring it home.
So do you remember, was like your brother David was how old? He was a baby when you were 8,
His name was Wayne,
or Wayne?
yeah,
And then did he die at home?
uh-huh.
They didn't
Yeah.
have hospital to take him to?
Well, they had a Twin Falls hospital, but I remember they kept him on the dining room table by the window so he could get fresh air. And it was,
He just never got better.
he just never got better. He never really broke out with the measles. The doctor said it just turned into pneumonia. But at that time they were losing babies just like
Right and left.
with the flu, and they didn't have all these antibiotics they have nowadays. But
So what year did he die?
let's see, I was 8, so you'll have to figure that out.
1923?
That sounds about right.
So he was between,
He was between Ivan and Marva.
okay.
So then and 2 years later, then they had Marva. Because I'm 10 years older than Marva.
So then you essentially grew up, all your teenage years and stuff,
Yeah.
there in Murtaugh.
And then Dad bought the home by the lake.
He didn't build that home?
No.
Oh, thought he built.
No, it was, see, I'd already started to school, and we used to have a lady in high school, and I don't know whether she lived in that house or somewhere else, but she'd drive our horse and buggy, and us kids got to ride in the buggy to school, until they finally got a wagon, and then in the winter, my dad put things on it so it'd be a sleigh, like a toboggan, and he'd take us to school, but it was like a covered wagon.
Oh, but all the kids in the neighborhood
We
like
drove
that.
to school in for a long time until they finally got a bus.
Okay, so where I grew up in Murtaugh, just down the road was the elementary school. Is that where you went to elementary school? Only they added on when I was,
Not where you went to elementary school, that was all new. It was just where the high school was.
that's where the elementary was also?
The whole school was there.
K through 12, or no,
At first,
for 1 through 12.
no kindergarten.
And you went all 12 grades at Murtaugh.
Right.
Name some of your teachers.
First name was called Esther Bly, and we called her Miss Bly. She finally got married and was Miss Briggs. But I went to first and second grade in 1 year, because I was smart those days.
Is that right? A mother who advanced.
That's why I was just 1 year behind Elna. See, Elna was 2 years older than me, but I was just 1 year behind her. That made her mad.
Okay, who's your third grade teacher?
And the third grade teacher was Miss Norris. And the fourth and fifth grade teacher was Miss Bates. Finally turned into Mrs. Dummer. And you know who she is.
Mrs. Dummer.
Oh, that'd be a tough name
She's the
for a
one,
teacher.
her daughter's one that wrote this song that Andrew sings.
Oh, okay.
The day the Savior
The
came.
day the Savior came.
Yeah.
All right, then 6th grade.
Well, the fifth and sixth I had Mrs. Dummer. Of course, it was Miss Bates then. And then in 7th grade I had Oline Dummer, that married Miss Bates. And then for high school, or in 8th grade, I had a Mr. Harton. Then I graduated from, they had graduation exercises then, into high school, and went all 4 years there. And
Now, where was your high school? Was it in Murtaugh also?
Murtaugh too, right in that same school.
They just tore it down this year.
Do you have pictures of it somewhere?
And
We don't. I don't know, we might have some pictures somewhere, but
yeah, I
Murtaugh-
do. I have
Yeah.
a picture of it.
Murtaugh just got tore down to build a new school just this year. They just opened it.
And the school where you went to grade school was built after we were married and gone.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so in high school, besides going to school, what else did you do?
Well, I was in the chorus. We sang quite a little wherever we went. We even went to Pocatello and even won first place there at Murtaugh one time with the chorus. And then I played basketball my senior year, and we won the championship.
All
First
right.
trophy that Murtaugh ever got.
Now tell me about the tap dance. You tap danced somewhere.
The what?
You danced.
You and Elna did what together?
We used to sing quite a lot together, and then I took tap dancing lessons, Ellen and I, but we didn't do a lot together, but me and my cousin did. We used to dance quite a little, tap dancing.
What'd you do on graduation night?
Gosh, I don't remember.
Did you go do anything dumb?
No. I know I had to give part of one of the speeches, because I wasn't such a bad student.
You were one of the valedictorians or something?
No, I wasn't valedictorian.
How many in your graduating class?
9. There
9.
was 3 boys.
So you were in the top 10 of your class?
Yeah, I was in the top 10, you can say that. And there was 6 girls and 3 boys. And it was fun,
Can you name them?
you bet.
Name your classmates. Not many people could do that.
I couldn't.
The boys were Leslie Hespeck, Rex Tolman, and Glenn Lee,
And Rex Tolman was your cousin, right? Oh no,
Well,
Dad's cousin.
Dad's
Oh, you
cousin,
didn't know
and
that?
Glenn Lee was too.
Okay.
He was, his mother was a Tolman.
Okay, so 3 boys. Who are the girls?
Genevieve Goodman, or Stringer, whatever you want to call her, she was married, you know. Her name was Genevieve Rowley, Jeanette Marshall, Eleanor Roberts, how many's that? And then there was me,
Okay, there's 4.
uh,
2 more.
Sarah Egbert, and one that married the Pickett, Jessie Pickett.
I'll be
That
done.
was amazing.
So you name all of her classmates. Not many can do that.
We used to could all get in one car if we had to by standing on the running board and just had a good time.
Tell me about the time that they used to drive the school bus. I still don't believe this. Across Murtaugh
Oh,
Lake.
yeah. The lake would freeze so hard that, and then the snow and blow around the road till the school bus would cross the Murtaugh Lake to go up towards Artesian and out that way to pick up the students. And we were always so glad when that did happen because the bus had to come down our lane. We didn't have to walk out to the road.
If the kids in Murtaugh now knew about that, they would think that somebody was crazy. But, I mean, I remember as a kid when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 in Murtaugh, that we would go out on the lake and ice skate. Jay and David and I would ice skate regularly. And I remember hearing the ice buckle because the ice was like over 3 feet thick. And we heard Uncle Ivan, her brother, talk about the time that they took the school bus across the lake. And we
Well,
laughed, said he was crazy.
That's
But-
a mother's history that you
Yeah.
interviewed.
Yes.
That they drove school buses across Murtaugh Lake, which of course they would never allow today.
And she said on her tape, they even took loaded trucks of potatoes across that lake.
Dad put up ice, you know, he takes your slips that's hauled hay
Right.
out on the ice and they'd be, 4 or 5, you know,
Blocks of,
the block and put them up. But we didn't have a refrigerator.
Put it in straw.
Put it in straw in
Last
a
also?
shed. And we'd take our butter and milk and then we had ice cream every Sunday that Dad froze and Mom would make every Sunday. We knew the kids loved to come to our house because they knew they was gonna have ice cream.
And so you milk cows at your house?
Yeah.
How many? I mean, a lot of cows or just enough to keep you in milk?
Well,
Or
quite a
did you
few.
sell milk?
I don't think they sold milk then. They separated it and sold the cream.
Oh, okay.
And the milk, you fed your calves and the pigs and
whoever would eat it.
Okay, so you graduated from high school, and then what did you do?
Well, I used to help Dad quite a little on the farm because, see, I was older than Ivan. And I drove the team of horses and the harrow, and then I remember he finally saved a few acres of beets so us kids could earn some money. And we thinned those and took care of those beets. And for $5 an acre, I think about that, how hard we had to work to thin an acre of beets.
How long did it take you?
Oh, he was very patient. It'd take us quite a while because we only worked in the mornings and evenings. When it got hot, we'd go swimming in the lake. I grew up in that lake in the summer.
So, during high school, did you date very much? Did you do any dating in those days, like when in high school?
Of course.
That was way back there, you know.
I know.
I didn't know dating was allowed then.
You bet. My dad was my bishop, if you remember that, from the time I was a little girl till I got married. And he seen that we got to go to all the stake dances and stake parties in Twin Falls. He used to fill his car full of young kids and take us. And I went with several boys from Twin Falls. One boy took me to a midnight show one night, New Year's. Had to get permission from my dad. And then he got home and got stuck in our lane and we had to get Dad up.
Oh, that's dope.
Took up the team of horses and pulled him out. Yeah, we had a good group from Twin Falls that we run around with. And they'd come up to Murtaugh to the dances.
That's cool.
One of them was Eldon Stokes.
Oh, okay.
You know, his son.
His son is my dentist.
Yeah.
Okay, so you then, out of high school, how long after that did you did you go to Pocatello to go to school?
That fall.
That fall?
Yeah.
What year was that?
That was I graduated in high school in 33, so I went in 33. That fall.
Was the Depression affecting in the farm? Did you notice?
Well, it had to affect us, but it didn't. Like my tuition for the first year was $19 for a semester.
Oh, man.
At Idaho State?
Idaho State. It wasn't Idaho State then, it was called Southern Branch. University of Idaho Southern Branch. And then your books were $2 or $3, and I paid, that first year I worked from a boarding room. I lived with a Catholic family. They wouldn't have anything but LDS kids there because they had a little girl we took care of, and I was their chauffeur. I took him to work, took the little girl to school, go get them. That's what I did. I had their car, and I worked for them for the whole year.
Do you remember what kind of car that was?
It had windows in it. It was a sedan.
Ooh, cool, it had windows.
Oh, the latest style.
Yeah, it was a nice car.
Sedan. Probably a
What
Chevy.
were some of the classes you took?
Oh, psychology and English and I had to take science. I took biology.
Don't make fun of science, Mother. I'm a science teacher. Don't make fun of science.
It's making fun of it. I can't remember all I took. And then I took PE and music.
Okay, now did you go to college because you thought like it was something did you have the intention of getting a degree, or did Grandpa Moy say you're going to college, or what was the...
No, I wanted to go to college. I wanted to become a school teacher, believe it or not.
Okay.
And,
I've never heard that before.
And Elna went the same year. She didn't go her first year out of high school, but she went into Pocatello and went to beauty school. And she worked for her boarding room.
A different place? You didn't live together,
No,
though?
we didn't live together, but she'd do my hair, you know. And it was nice. And then that's where she met Ralph.
At Idaho State?
Yeah.
When did you meet Lloyd? Was that after that or before that?
You know, I'm not sure just when I met Lloyd, but see, Fred went with Elna for a long time. And he came to Oakley to work with to Murtaugh from Oakley to work for his uncle. That was my dad's first counselor in the bishopric.
Who?
Lloyd.
Bert Egbert.
Bird Egbert, okay.
And I don't know whether we just got acquainted at church or just how I got acquainted with him. I remember the first date we had.
Tell us about the first date. When was it? While you were still going to Idaho State?
No, well, it was in the summer.
Between your first and second year?
Yeah, no, it wasn't, it was for, as small as a senior.
Oh, okay.
Because we went to, they were going to Burley and they told Lloyd he had to get a girl if he wanted to go with them. And that was Fred, Dylan, and Norris, and Genevieve. And they were going to Burley, and so he says, well, I'll go in and get the first girl that dances around the door.
Okay, now just a minute. They were in Oakley.
No, we were in Murtaugh.
Oh, they were in Murtaugh.
Yeah, they were in Murtaugh.
And Dad was in Murtaugh, and they says, I'll just go into the dance, and whoever dances by the door.
First, I'll grab.
Kidding.
And it was me, and he said, do you want to drive to Burley? Well, I knew Ellen and Fred were going. And I said, well, I wouldn't mind driving to Burley, but I gotta go ask my dad. Of course, he was the bishop and was to all our dances. So I went and asked him, and he let me go. And we went to Burley and back, and you know what? I shouldn't be telling this on tape.
Tell it.
What it was, Lloyd had a brother-in-law that was a bootlegger. And Grandma Larson wanted him to get really frightened. So she made this all up, but these kids were to come and rob his still.
This was Grandma Larson's doing, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
Grandma
That was your
Larson.
first date. You're out on a
Yeah,
on
I
a
was out on
still.
a date. And
Nice.
so they went there, and we just sat in the car. We didn't know what they were doing. And they came back in with all these bottles, put them in the trunk. My dad about had a fit when he found out about it. But anyway, if we'd have got caught.
And I can add that about 45 years later, I was at the family meeting when Uncle Joe Varela found out that it was Lloyd and Fred
You're
who
kidding.
ruined his still and stole all that bootleg whiskey. And he was mad for several days after that because he was angry. I mean, it was his income. He made a lot of money, according to my dad. He made a lot of money selling this bootleg whiskey. And Grandma Larson, who was Joe's mother-in-law, wanted to stop to it. And so her first date, and anyway, I was at the meeting at our home when they told Uncle Joe that it was, and at first he said, you're kidding. And it was Fred who says, no, it was us. And he wouldn't talk to Floyd letter to my dad or Uncle Fred for several days after that.
How am I related to that guy, Joe?
Uncle Joe Varela would have been your great uncle.
My great uncle.
So anyway, Aunt Amy said that he finally had a good laugh about it, but right then he was angry, and it had happened, what,
Oh,
55 or 60 years prior. So I was at that meeting when, but I didn't know that was your first date.
that was my first date.
Grandma out stealing bootleg whiskey on her first date.
Oh, that was terrible. Dad would have never let Ellen and I have gone if he known.
Yeah.
But Grandma Larson didn't tell him either, and he was so darn good to Grandma because he used to take her flour and stuff because she
The widow
needed
lady,
it.
right?
She had been a widow for so long. And
You knew her before
Pardon?
did you know her before you knew her?
No, I didn't know her
Because she was in Oakley.
till I started going with Lloyd, and then we used to go up there.
Okay, what was your second date? How long after that did you go again?
Oh, I don't remember.
Was it a long time or a short time?
No, we started going together.
Okay.
And he didn't have a car. He had an Uncle Bert lived probably 6-7 miles from us, and he'd walk over. But a lot of it was just taking a boat right out on the lake, and then Dad used to take us to the shows.
Where'd you have to go to a show?
Twin Falls.
Grandpa Moyes would take you and my dad to the show.
Yeah, and anybody else, that's
Yeah.
like a carload.
Did Grandpa Moyes like Lloyd?
I think he did. I think he liked all the Larson boys. Everyone worked for him.
They're hard
From
workers.
Fred to Lloyd and Sid, Ross.
Is that right?
Yeah, they all worked for Dad.
On the farm.
Down through the years. Yeah, they were good boys. And they were hard workers.
How did Grandpa Moyes, how did my dad ask you to marry him? Do you remember?
No.
You don't? Just that little thing there was just, or where did you get your diamond?
Well, let's see.
Or did you start with a diamond?
No, I didn't start with the diamond. You know, Uncle Joe about gave him the money to buy the diamond.
Joe Morella?
Yeah.
The one that he stole bootleg whiskey from.
Of course, he didn't know it.
He didn't know that.
Yeah, he gave him the money to buy the diamond, and well, the whole set.
So when did you got engaged when?
Well, it probably was.
Was it the next summer?
Yeah, probably after I'd gone to school. Well, I'd gone to school that year, and then I come home, and I tell you all of this, you'll think we were the poorest people in the country. I worked for a family, a lady that was in bed fast. Yeah, I had to bathe her in bed and wash her hair in bed. She had 3 children. For $2 a week, I worked that summer for, to take care of that family. And then...
Took you 9 weeks to pay off your tuition, so in that sense.
And then after that, when I got through working for her, my aunt was working, Aunt Myrtle Exeter, was working in Twin Falls. No, that was the next summer. Then I went back to school that fall, and we got into a little apartment, and we paid $12 a month, 3 of us, for rent. We had a stove, a gas stove that you had to put a quarter in to get gas, and half the time we were without gas. We couldn't cook because we didn't have the quarter. So you can see the depression.
It did have an effect, yeah.
Lots of times we didn't have quarter.
So that was your second year at Idaho State?
That was my second year at Idaho State.
So you weren't engaged by then?
No, I was going with a really sharp guy too, Ben. From,
The one that got rich?
yeah.
But then he died early.
No, he's still alive that I know of.
What's his name?
Foster Kuntz.
Oh, yeah.
He's from Bern up here, Bern, Idaho.
Okay,
And
so...
this is one Vanessa gets a kick out of. I told her about it, and she still laughs. I had a date with Foster to go to the show, and Lloyd came up from Murtaugh, or Oakley, or wherever he was. He was still in school. I was a year ahead of him in school. And so he come up, and I didn't know he was coming. So there I had those 2 guys.
In Pocatello?
In Pocatello. I was still at school. So we went out for dinner. One of them paid for the dinner. Then we went to the show, and the other one paid for the show.
The 3 of you went together?
The 3 of us went, and I told Vanessa I'd sit there and held hands with both of them. And she still laughs about that.
You really did?
Yeah.
Well, my wife gives me a bad time because I had a date with 2 girls on the same night one time before I got married. Now I know where I got it.
Well, it was so uncalled for,
Yeah.
I mean, I had a date with Foster. I was going with him all while I was at school at Pocatello. He was a nice boy.
Yeah.
And anyway, Lloyd came up, and I didn't know what to do. When they took me home, neither one of them would leave, and I thought they was going to stay all night.
Well, they both wanted a kiss.
I guess. I probably should have went and did it and got rid of them, but they finally went home by morning.
Okay, so you went 2 full years of school at Idaho
I
State.
didn't go 2 full years.
You went home early?
I went home at Christmas time. And that's when I went to work for my aunt that I was telling you about,
Myrtle Exeter.
Yeah, in Twin Falls. She was working in one of the dry goods stores there in Twin.
And I have a quilt that Myrtle Exeter made
Do you?
that Aunt Violet gave me.
Oh.
A small baby quilt.
Anyway,
Now, I thought Myrtle Exeter was a Larson relative. She's a Moyes
no,
relative?
she's my dad's younger sister.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I worked for them for
Well,
2.5
now, hold it. I have to
weeks.
stop you. Who's Myrtle, then, that Violet knew?
Well, it'd be Freestone.
Okay,
Your dad's aunt.
okay, Myrtle Freestone. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
That's probably who it is.
Grandma Larson's sister?
Yeah, younger sister.
Okay, well, we have a baby quilt that she made.
Yeah, that sounds more reasonable. When you think about it, 2.5 a week, and took care of a family, did all the cooking, did their washing. They had 5 children then. But she was working, and so when I decided, Foster had invited me to come back to go to a big formal up at Pocatello, and so I was going to quit so I could go. Aunt Myrtle didn't have any money to pay me, so she gave me material out of the store, took it, on the offering her wages, and Mother made me a new suit.
And you went up to Pocatello?
And
Went to the dance.
went to the dance.
Okay,
But
then you
see, I
came.
was still going with Lloyd at
Right,
the same time, but nothing.
yeah.
And then, but anyway, that spring, he gave me that diamond, he gave me a diamond.
That was spring of 1935.
Yeah,
And you got married
in July.
July of 1935.
It
Where?
was we were broke, when you think about it.
Yeah.
You got married in Kimberly, Idaho.
Yeah, Bishop Olson married us.
Now back in those days, people didn't, you know, nowadays they say, oh, they're LDS, why aren't they going to the temple? But then it was a matter of money, wasn't it, more than anything?
Well, yeah, it was,
And the only temple's where? Salt Lake, right?
well, no, Logan,
Logan was the closest temple.
closest. But, gosh, you know, you had a car, but we didn't have it. Lloyd never had a car. And his mother never owned a car. She had a horse and buggy, you know, she broke both wrists in a buggy accident.
Oh, she did? Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, a horse ran away with her and she ended in a telephone pole and broke both of her wrists. She was really laid up for a long time. Now, do you remember that at all? Or guess it
I
was-
know I've heard the story because Uncle Les was in the back.
Yeah, and Ozzy.
They got away from her and she...
They were just little kids.
They were just little kids in the back of the horse buggy, and she lost control, and they hit a telegraph pole, and she went out and broke both of her wrists. So Aunt Alvaretta and Aunt Amy had to take care of all the housework because she had both her hands in a cast.
Yeah, well, we were married then,
Yeah.
too, so we were married. So that, Lloyd never had a car, but he had a friend that had a car. And Lloyd would buy the gas. And we went with him nearly everywhere. He had a girl there at Murtaugh too. He was from Oakley.
So how long after you got married did you go to Oregon?
Let's see. We lived there with.
Where'd you live in Murtaugh first? I don't know where you can...
Well, we lived with the folks for a while, and then we rented a little two-room house that was really cute. These people were good friends of the folks and good friends of ours, and they were leaving, and so they rented it furnished. It had even carpet on the floor in the bedroom. It was a cute little house, and we rented that. And Lloyd worked for Savage's Potatoes, besides working for my dad on the farm.
So they had two jobs.
Yeah, and he worked sorting potatoes and saved enough to pay down payment. This land in Payette, or Ontario, was going to be available, but you had to have around $800 or $900 to make the down payment.
Right.
And we saved that to just sorting potatoes and whatever he could do. And then after these people come home and wanted their two-little room house, we lived in the top story of the hotel, which it used to be a hotel in Murtaugh, right by the railroad track.
Yeah.
And we lived just in one room in that hotel. Norris and Genevieve Goodman they had two rooms, just side of us. And Blackburn, do you remember the Blackburns? They had the bigger room and a bedroom across the hall. We all lived right there together in the little hotel room until we moved up to Oregon.
How did you find out about the land in Oregon?
I think it was just advertised. I don't remember how.
Because it
we
was
found out.
similar to, they just opened a new waterway and they had
Well,
irrigation water.
they knew the Oahe project was going to open up,
Right.
but that water hadn't got there yet.
And
So
Fred
Lloyd
did-
and Fred went up there, and Fred bought 40 acres, and Lloyd bought 80. And it was desert.
What did you think when you first saw it? You knew what you were getting into.
Well, I
suppose.
knew what I was getting into. And then and this sounds unreasonable, but Fred borrowed $150 from Uncle Bert Egbert, and they built a house.
For $150, and that's the one you guys lived in.
And that house stood there till, well, it was still there.
Was that the house on the corner?
On the
Oh, I
corner.
remember that. That's the house that Donna was born in.
Yeah, Donna was born in that
Because I
house.
remember as a
That
kid,
was
I never been in that home.
Oh,
Even
But
though it was a little shack, I bet you had it
Well,
decorated up nice.
the only two-by-fours in that house was around the doors and windows and around the edge. The rest was just boards and then those two-by-fours. But we put gray paper on it, the inside, so it made it look smooth, and then we wallpapered it, putting the linoleum down. I don't even know how we got the money to do that. And it looked like a nice home. I mean, it looked like a home.
Had 2 rooms?
It had 2 rooms, and then it had one whole side of the building that we never did finish. Even after we sold it to Root, but it was not finished. I remember one time, he even built cupboards in there, but then I'd hung curtains. I went to get a pan out from under one of the cupboards, and there was this big old snake rolled up in there.
It's out in the country, out in the
Oh.
desert.
Yeah.
Did you, so it had an outhouse?
It had an outhouse. And this place had been dry land years and years ago, so it did have a well on it. But we couldn't afford a pump for a long time, and so we didn't have to drill a well there on Fred's place.
Right.
And then when Fred wanted to sell that 40 acres, so then we went up on our 80. And then so when we built that little 2-room house, and Lloyd worked in the lumber company to get the lumber.